Good morning, Oasis kids families. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time this morning and joining us right here at kidsloveoasis.com. We're so excited to have you today. Tell me how was your week? Did you have a good week this week? I know my week was a little weird because, we went trick-or-treating technically over the weekend. And man, trick-or-treating this year because of COVID is a little bit different. Like we talked about whether we were going to go, whether we weren't. The kids really wanted to go, and so we picked like a little small area to go trick-or-treating at. And we walked around. Man, it was kind of weird because there were just a few houses where people were actually handing out candy, but for the most part, there were just bowls of candy like sitting out in front of the house where you could go and grab it. So like we didn't really have to ring any doorbells. We didn't have to knock on any doors. It was literally just go grab some candy and go. My daughter loved it because she already thinks like knocking on someone's door and asking them for candy is a little bit weird anyways. So she loved this new method. In fact, her suggestion is this is how trick-or-treating should be every year moving forward. Just set a ball of candy out, run up, grab what you can, and then head out without having to talk to anybody. How about you? Did you go trick-or-treating this year? If so, what do you prefer, the grab and go method like my daughter does, or are you more like a knock on the door, let me show off my costume so you can see all the work that I put into this thing? Well, today we're going to get to learn even more about God's story. As we get ready to learn together, I do have a question I want to ask you. Have you ever built anything out of Legos? Well, of course you have. I mean, all of us at some point in time have built something out of Legos, right? I love Legos. They're so much fun. But have you ever built Legos with like a friend? But I don't mean like you're building your little thing and they're building their little thing. What I mean is like y'all are working on the exact same project at the exact same time, trying to build the same thing together. Sometimes that works out really, really well. Like, hey, this is great, guys. Like, look, I'm doing my part, you're doing your part. But sometimes working together on a project like Legos can be really difficult. Now imagine that you and your friend are trying to build Legos, but then there's some more friends, like hundreds of them, all trying to build Legos together. That sounds pretty difficult, doesn't it? If you're all trying to build this one thing and there's hundreds of you doing it, that's kind of hard. Now imagine at the same time, you've got people that are close by that are making fun of you, yelling at you, throwing stuff at you, trying whatever they can to get you to stop from completing your Lego project. Sounds a bit crazy, huh? Well, our story today isn't exactly about Legos, but it is about a guy named Nehemiah who tried to rebuild a wall to protect God's people. We're going to see if he was able to actually accomplish this job that God gave him or not. But before we do that, guys, we get to worship together. So come on, let's get up on our feet, stretch it out, let's get ready, let's sing some songs and worship God together.
I know who you are. listen up now. I'm living out loud. Jesus, let my life be your story. We're singing out, yeah. You're the one I want, my life to celebrate. 'Cause you gave life to me. We're shouting, hey, living every day, living to praise your name. Jesus, let my life be your story. I'm alive to live a life that shines your light. So listen up now. I'm living out loud. Jesus, let my life be your story. Yeah, you're the one I want, my life to celebrate. 'Cause you gave life to me. We're shouting, hey, living every day, living to praise your name. Jesus, let my life be your story. Yeah, you're the one I want, my life to celebrate. 'Cause you gave life to me. We're shouting, hey, living every day, living to praise your name. Jesus, let my life be your story. Let my life be your story. My future's bright, 'cause you want good things for me. Let my life be your story. My future's bright, 'cause you want good things for me. So bring on tomorrow, bring on today. I ain't afraid of what comes my way. Let my story every page bring glory to Jesus' name. We're singing out, yeah. You're the one I want, my life to celebrate. 'Cause you gave life to me. We're shouting, hey, living every day, living to praise your name. Jesus, let my life be your story. Yeah, you're the one I want, my life to celebrate. 'Cause you gave life to me. We're shouting, hey, living every day, living to praise your name. Jesus, let my life be your story. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na, eh. Na 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 na.
God's story, Nehemiah. So part of God's story is about a guy named Nehemiah, and it goes like this. Remember God's family? They were called the Israelites because they lived in, you guessed it, Israel. But some of them lived far away from their home, and one of those guys was Nehemiah. He lived in Persia and worked for the king. One day, his brother told him that a city in Israel called Jerusalem was suffering, and many people there weren't following God anymore, and their city wasn't in very good shape. Nehemiah cried, "God, you are wonderful, but your family's home is in trouble. Please help us. When I serve the king his wine today, make him pleased with me and have him do what I ask." Later, when Nehemiah served the king's wine, the king noticed that Nehemiah looked sad. So the king asked why. Nehemiah told him about Jerusalem and asked if he could go back to rebuild the wall. The king could have killed Nehemiah for asking to leave, but instead, he said go. He even helped. That's because God heard Nehemiah's prayer and answered it. Anyway, Nehemiah went to work rebuilding the wall, but little did he know he was going to need to ask for a lot more help from God. See, God and his family have always had enemies, and these enemies wanted to stop Nehemiah and the people helping him. First, they made fun of them. So Nehemiah prayed again. He said, "God, some people hate us. Please get rid of them," and went back to work. Now, God does hear and answer every prayer, but sometimes not in the way we expect or even in the way we want. And at first, it seemed like God wasn't answering this one at all, because when the enemy saw that Nehemiah was still building, they planned an attack. But Nehemiah trusted that God heard his prayer even if it didn't feel like it. And God did. He caused some people to overhear the enemy's plan and warn Nehemiah. Even though the enemies were still after him, Nehemiah planned a defense and told the others, "Don't be afraid of your enemies. Remember the Lord. He is great and powerful." And on they worked, building, building, building. The closer the wall got to being finished, the more Nehemiah's enemies realized they couldn't stop him by making fun of him or by attacking him. Time for something else. They tried everything. They sent messages to get Nehemiah to leave the wall and meet them. He wouldn't. They hoped Nehemiah's hands would get weak, but Nehemiah had asked God to make his hands stronger. They even paid a priest to ask Nehemiah to leave the wall and come to the temple. But Nehemiah trusted God more than anyone else, even the priest, and he refused to stop doing the job God had given him. Kids, are you willing to listen to God and obey him, no matter what? Well, finally, the wall was done. God's family got to go home again, and Nehemiah's enemies found that nothing stops God's plans. The Israelites celebrated and praised God, and as they praised, they realized how much their sins had hurt God, and they felt terrible. They told God they were sorry and thanked him for helping them. Then they made a brand new promise to follow him, and Jerusalem was once again a safe place where people honored God. And that's the story of Nehemiah. But just so you know, there's another story where God fixes something that's broken. See, one day, God would send a very special rescuer, not to save a wall, but to save the world. He made it possible for not just Israelites, but everyone in the whole world to confess their sin to God, thank him for his rescue, and follow him. And just like that old wall was made new back then, our old lives can be made new right now, because Jesus has rescued us. And that's a part of God's story.
Welcome back. Man, can you imagine being Nehemiah in this story? He had to do some really hard things, didn't he? He had to first ask the king for permission, knowing that the king could kill him right there on the spot just for that. Then he had to get the Israelites to work together while avoiding all of his enemies. Man, there is no way that Nehemiah could have pulled all of this off without the help from God. See, Nehemiah and the Israelites, they had to rebuild a broken wall, and God helped them do it. Now, as for you, you may not have a bunch of broken walls around you that God wants you to rebuild, but I bet you if you think hard and you look really, really deep, every single one of us can find something that maybe is broken inside of us that could use some repair work. Maybe it's a friendship because somebody said something hurtful to you. Maybe it's the way you see yourself because you think you've done too many bad things and you've just messed up way too much. No matter what you feel like is broken in your life, I want you to know that God can fix broken things. In fact, that's today's big idea. So everybody, y'all repeat this after me. Say, God can fix broken things. It is so good to know that no matter what part of our lives we feel is broken, God can fix it if we only ask. Maybe today you feel like you're facing some broken things. Just like Nehemiah had to trust God to help him rebuild that wall to protect the Israelites, God wants to help you fix your broken relationships, the broken promises, and your broken feelings. You just simply need to ask him for help. Listen, kids, I hope you had an awesome time with us today, learning some new stuff from God's story. Check it out, Mom and Dad. You should have got an email this week with some resources, some downloads, some questions and activities that you can ask your kids and do with them all week long. If for some reason you didn't get that email, it's totally fine. All you need to do is go to www.kidsloveoasis.com, and there's a link there where you can download every single resource that we are providing for you. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.